Welcome to Six into Six. Tonight's fabulous guest, Coach Kevin Clifford, Coach Cliff, Roberts Wesleyan University women's basketball coach. Welcome.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one. In reading in a little bit, I did not realize you were hired on in the summer, early fall of 2018, shortly before I joined in the spring of 2019.
Yes, I came in September, like 10th or 12th.
So you're my first basketball coach on here. I actually love the game thanks to Brianna Stewart. And tell us a little bit about yourself. What was your journey up to becoming a basketball coach?
Wow, that's a loaded question. We have a couple hours.
Let's do that Cliff Note version of it.
I'll do the quick version of it. So my parents are from Ireland, and they came and did not play basketball. My dad used to say 3 seconds when we were on offense. We used to tell him, "Don't say that." So it was the inside joke of the family. But my sister played, my brothers played, and we played a lot of sports growing up. You know, basketball, baseball, football, hockey. You know, wiffle ball. We're from Queens, New York, where the Mets play, about 10 minutes away. I actually used to work a lot near where the Yankees played, so I went to a lot of those games. And big sports person, I love all sports. But you know, I was 6 years old, and my brothers played, and I kind of just got into basketball because my sister and my brothers played. So a funny story: my brother Michael was probably about 10, 11 years old, and they had no team for me. So I just, as an annoying younger brother, you're hanging around your older brother, and I became the mascot of the team. I would dress up. I wouldn't play any games, but they had me on the bench, and I was always around basketball. So I think I was a little more advanced than a lot of people just because I was around it. I played middle school, CYO, high school. I went to prep school. After prep school, I grew from 6'2" to 6'5" that senior year of high school, and then I started getting recruited. I went to Sacred Heart University to a Division II. The school transferred Division I. You know, transfer portal is big now in basketball, but back then our school went from D2 to D1. So I played 2 years Division II, 2 years Division I, and then after college I started coaching again. I actually started coaching when I was 15 years old. 16 years old, 17 years old, I coached baseball and basketball. I was the assistant coach, and Ray Conley was the head coach, and Ron Artest, formerly known as Medal World Peace, he was 15 years old, and his program shut down, and he came over to our program, St. Sebastian's, and Ray stopped showing up, and I became head coach. 17 years old, Coach Knowles, and coaching Ron Artest and guys that are my buddies now, you know, guys a couple of years younger than me. So I was always coaching at a young age. Then I went to college. When I came back out of college, I started coaching CYO against St. Sebastian's. I was on the boys' side for a long time. People might not know that. I coached high school basketball, and then I got a job at City College as the men's assistant coach. And then the women's job opened up. I didn't really watch women's basketball. I knew Pat Summitt, Tennessee, Gina Armour, UConn. And then I got the women's job. And no one wanted it. The team was really struggling. The program was really struggling. And I had to really build the foundation from the bottom. We went from 0-25 my first year to 8-15 the second year. There were 4 wins, 3 wins, 2 wins, 1 win. And then when I got the job, I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to win 2 or 3 games. And,
Right.
you know, it really humbled me, but it made me become a better coach. Then I went to college. I was there for 7 years, coaching the men's side and the women's side. Then I went to college in Mount St. Vincent, where I was the cross-country coach, men and women's. I didn't know much about it, but I really enjoyed the sport and coaching them. And then I was the women's head coach. I was assistant AD in charge of SAC and camps and things like that. So I wore many hats at the Division III level. We won the championship first time in school history in 3 years. We went from worst to first. That was kind of our motto. We were 7-18. Then we were 18-7. We flipped it, and usually it takes 4 or 5 years, as I said, but we wanted to do it quickly. In the third year, we were 22-6 and won the championship. So our second year, we lost in the championship. The third year, we won it, and then different reasons, but I ended up leaving. The administration changed a little bit, and I went to Buff State, and then I was at Buff State for 3 years, and then from Buff State, I got recommended for this job, Coach Rosati. I met him out recruiting. Everywhere I went, this 70-year-old guy was there, and every time he turned around, he saw me. He thought I was crazy. I thought he was crazy, but we always ran into each other. And then I worked he spoke at my camp at Buffalo State, and he really liked how I interact with the players and staff and himself and guest speakers. So he recommended me for the job here. And then now 6 years later, I'm at Roberts Wesleyan. So
And here we are tonight. I think we're all maybe a little crazy in this profession. So I guess so you started coaching like 15, 16, 17 years old. At what point, when you started to become interested in the coaching side of it, at what point did you realize that it might be possible for you to pursue a career in coaching?
I always wanted to coach. My prep school coach said I was going to be a teacher and a coach, and that's what I did. So I was a full-time teacher, part-time coach. I wore many hats, but even when I was younger, I used to run the tournaments. Coach knows we had wiffle ball tournaments. I had the brackets. I organized a lot of baseball games after school, and I invited everybody, very inclusive. Even maybe the kids that didn't really hang out with us. I wanted 18 people, 9-on-9. And I would set up the teams and everything. So I was kind of coaching and running things without even knowing. And then I started running leagues, softball teams, tournaments. I mean, I was always around it. But, when I was younger, I loved playing. And then when I realized, my playing days were over, I think, but I was coaching at a younger age. This guy, John Mann, he coached me, coached my brothers. He grew up across the street. He was actually the mailman in the neighborhood, so everybody knew him. But his family got along with us. And his daughter actually played at Queens College, very good player. But anyway, John was the coach at CYL, St. Sebastian's. He coached me. And then when I went to high school, he asked me to come back and help out. I couldn't be there all the time because of the commitment, because I was still playing. But I was coaching, being an assistant coach, helping out, and just kind of around the game. So kind of fell into it, and then I didn't really realize it until I started coaching after college, where I kind of hated basketball a little bit. I was kind of burnt out, and then I started coaching again, started getting the passion again. I started playing in leagues, and then when I started coaching high school, I really got the itch, started watching basketball even more, studying and going to clinics. And then this guy, Glenn Breaker, got me into coaching at City College, and he actually tried to talk me out of it. He said, "You sure you want to do this?" He's actually the assistant at Fairfield now, but he got me into coaching, and Andy Stanfeld was his Dolbo, the ticket guy, mission guy on their coaching staff at St. Francis, and now he was a Division III head coach. And then Glenn got me in. I volunteered. And I kind of paid my dues, I think so. That's kind of how I got into it. But I just love sports and love basketball, love helping people, love coaching. Always loved the strategy, the game. Even when I played video games, I was subbing people in and out, strategy, playing different. My friends used to laugh at me about it, but so I kind of always been like a natural coach, but probably right before college and then right after college, in my early 20s, I really it became a passion.
I think it's interesting your educational backgrounds in psychology and education. Do you think you were always kind of navigated towards that from an educational standpoint, or do you think your coaching path kind of helped you choose that? Oh, we lost your sound, coach. Nope, not yet. I think I cursed us by saying I've never had issues. Oh, I heard you momentarily.
How's that?
Back to the way it was. A little clip, but I can hear you.
Okay. How's that now?
I can hear you.
All right, good. Sorry about that. Yeah, so um, I was teaching, going to school. I wasn't sure what I wanted to study, and my prep school coach said I was going to be a teacher and a coach. When I went to college, I studied psychology. I minored in education, and then I got my master's at City College for education. So, but I think it's helped me, the psychology, learning the human body, learning how it works. It changes every year, so I probably got to stay on top of the reading and learning that stuff. But I think it has helped. I used to use a lot of reverse psychology. I don't know if that word helped out too much, but Yeah, I think it helped, and I think it's connected, right? A coach is a teacher. I love the classroom, and I also love the basketball court and being out there. But I coach baseball, I coach cross country, I coach a lot of different sports, so not just a basketball coach. But I'm going to my 19th year in coaching college, 17 as a women's head coach, and 2 as an assistant. But I think it's helped me, and I met a lot of people through teaching, coaching. So, did I
I,
answer your question?
I think you made an interesting point about staying current and reading. It's one of my favorite sayings is our athletes can't follow a stop sign. I think it's always important for us to, like you said, stay current, keep pushing the boundaries so we can help them grow.
Yeah, I agree. And Kevin Garnett said, "Don't be a know-it-all, be a learn-it-all." And I really try to live that myself. You know, if people don't want to get better and and learn, that's kind of on them. We want to try to give them the tools and the vehicles. But I'm always trying to learn stuff. You, Coach Knowles, Coach Mack, we're always sharing things, going back and forth. You know, quotes. Reading books. So I think you always want to do that. John Wooden had a big quote, and my college coach Dave Bike used to say this: "It's what you learn after you know it all." And I didn't know what he was talking about, but think about it. A lot of people think they know it all. They think they know the answers, and they really don't. You know, so I think even me, I know a lot about basketball, but can I teach it to our players? It's what they know, right? What they learn from us. You know, sometimes we give them too much information. So, but I think you want to learn and keep growing and get better, even 1% every day, as we say to our athletes.
Yeah, 100%. As soon as you think you've known everything, you're done. Because I mean, in my experience, you tend to shut down and stop listening. And when we stop listening, so it's funny. Right before you got on, I saw that Caitlin Clark decided to declare for the draft, and not stay an extra season. And we've talked about how Brianna Stewart got me into the game, and it seems there's a lot more higher profile, maybe because of social media, women's basketball players playing at a really high level these days. Brink, Angel Reese, Clark. What are your thoughts on the impact of those high profile athletes on the future of the game?
Yeah, I think women's basketball is growing a lot, Coach Knowles. I think the game is growing. I think these players are really more advanced than they were. You know, the game is different. They are a little more athletic. They have trainers. They're a little more advanced. They can shoot the ball deeper. The game is different, though. Back then, it was a little more fundamental, you know, and closer to the basket. But now, I think the game has changed a lot. But the game is growing. I'm surprised by her entering. A lot of people have been staying, they said, because they can make money off the NIL. And, you know, some people do, like Caitlin Clark, you know, they lost last year. So maybe, you know, they want to win a championship. She has 3,650 points right now, which is unbelievable. Pistol Pete is up there, which is one of my favorites. I used to do all his dribbling drills. They call me the dribble doctor. When I go to camps and stuff, I kind of do like funny dribble stuff, but I used to do it as a kid when I went to all the camps. But I think the WNBA is growing. I think they need more teams. I wish I like when they stay for college basketball because it really makes that game better. But I think Caitlin Clark has done a lot, and I think sometimes they want a new challenge. You know, a lot of them are going overseas. Coach Knowles, I don't know if you know that. A lot of them were playing overseas early on because of the salary, I guess, and different things. But now I think college basketball is growing, men and women, and the WNBA and the NBA. So
Yeah, and I was reading something earlier today. Funny you mentioned that the Athletes Unlimited, the basketball side of that organization is actually helping keep some of those athletes here on our domestic soil instead of having to do that grueling overseas schedule. So times are changing, maybe. Um, have you seen any of that? Let's call it the Caitlin Clark effect of like the fans and the excitement. Think you've noticed any of that drift into our environment at Roberts in terms of fan base or maybe even the quality of recruits coming in? Has that changed for you?
yeah, I think it just changed the game. Like more people come to our games. I think attendance is up. I think people are talking about her, which I think a lot of players don't watch their own sport, Coach Noel. So, for example, if I play volleyball, do I actually watch it, right? I watch basketball. I watch a lot of sports, but I watch like Larry Bird. I try to see what he did, and then I would try to do it. And I fake all the time when I play because of Larry Bird. My brothers did it. My brother idolized that Larry Bird. So my brother used to watch the Larry Bird highlight film like every day, like when I came home. So that and Hoosiers was on in my house all the time. So but I think people now watching the game, I think people are like, like players will be like, "Oh, Coach Cliff, did you see this?" I like that because they're not just going home and not watching basketball or their sport. So I think it's good for the game, and I hope it continues. But I think anytime when you have you know good like good things happen in basketball. What I mean by like she's breaking records and things like that, it's going to draw people that never really watch it. My wife doesn't, didn't really know basketball before she met me, but she watches it, tells me who's playing, who's going on. I think Brianna Stewart and Tarasi and those players that you like really kind of they started it right. Maya Moore's and then now like Caitlin Clark's and the Reese's, they've really grown the game.
I agree with you 100% because what pulled me into starting to watch was, I kept hearing, I think on Twitter at the time about this phenom out of UConn who had I don't know what her wingspan is, it's huge. And finally I was like, oh man, I've got to go check it out because I keep hearing about her. And yeah, it was like almost instantly fall in love with the game. I was like, wow, I've been missing this. So I can definitely see how it happens.
No, I agree. I agree.
So coach, I decided to take a little different tactic tonight with us. I know we were talking and I was thinking about maybe some mindset topics, some of the stuff that you love to try to incorporate. And I thought since this is the first basketball episode, I'd throw six quotes. I'd find six quotes out of some famous basketball coaches and kind of see what your thoughts are on those and see go from there.
I love it.
All right, so the first one you mentioned him, John Wooden. Arguably the greatest basketball coach ever. He said, success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to become the best of which you are capable.
Wow.
Let's talk about how we define success um, in our teams and as we're preparing for seasons and what we're trying to benchmark our performance on.
Yeah, I mean, every program is different. I think in general, Coach Noel, for us, it's graduate, with good academic standing, and two, hang a banner every year. Those are the two things that we try to do. Then we added going to the tournament because we could go to the NCAA tournament and the national tournament. But there's other ways to gauge success. You know what I mean? But a lot of people look at wins and losses. Did you improve? Did you overachieve, underachieve? But the biggest thing that comes with success, the first step is failure. It is failure. My first year coaching women, I was 0-25. Coach Knowles, I wanted to quit. I wanted to probably jump off a bridge. But I stuck with it. And then I've won championships, and thanks to the players and coaches I've had, not just me. But I've had some losing seasons, and people don't see that. John Wooden took 16 years to win a championship, I think. Coach K was almost fired and had death threats and letters. I don't know if people know that. If you read his book, his book's really good. And the AD stayed with him, and now he's a successful, one of the best leaders and coaches of all time. So I think, I think coaches and administrators need to give some time to coaches in terms of stick with them, see are they improving, are they recruiting. Don't just base it on wins and losses. Sometimes it's like win now, win now. You see the NBA, one guy was winning in the Bucks and they fired him, and he was doing pretty good. So, so it's kind of a cutthroat business, but success and failure go together. But I always talk about the word I heard in John Wooden's quote was the best. Do your best effort. At the end of the day, I used to use a line, never go to bed a loser. And then I changed it. And I always want to go to bed a winner. And what does that mean is did I lose the game? Maybe. Did I win the game? But did I give it my all? Was I prepared? Did I prepare my team? And the days that I don't prepare my team the best, those are the days when I have a tough day. But I try to do everything in my power that day to win the day and never go to bed like having any regrets and saying, hey, I did my best. So success is part of it. Hard work. I think outworking people, Coach knows, but I think failure is part of that. I love these three words. It says success leaves clues. And what that means is Derek Jeter is a really good baseball player, great captain, great teammate. Watch him. He ran out every ball. He didn't jog, and he outworked people. He stayed out of, he probably went out and did his, thing, but he stayed out of trouble and he kept a clean reputation. But success leaves clues. You want to own a business? Google the best business owners and who's the best coaches, who's the best lacrosse goalie, who's the best lacrosse goalie coach. The coach knows. Who's the best, and follow them, and study them, and go to watch other practices.
Well, and I think the thing I love about this is success leaves clues thing is, and I ask this to people, to athletes on occasion, is, this skill you're trying to learn or this place you're trying to be, if you knew how it was done, would you be able to do it? Because so many times we're like, I don't think I could do that. But if Coach Cliff is doing this, can I see what he's doing and how he's doing it and learn from him? Like you said, it leaves clues. And if I knew the blueprint, if I knew the recipe, could I cook the meal? Maybe not as good as the chef who made it, but hopefully I could follow directions and not burn the dish.
Yeah, and I agree. I think you make it your own, right? We borrow and steal as coaches, right? Coach knows, but some stuff I've come up with, or I thought I came up with it on my own. There was things like, I had a player shoot over the backboard, for arc, not in the game, but in practice. A lot of people don't do that. I call it OTB, over the backboard. I did wall shooting, but I borrowed that from somebody, right? I used to do this defense where I played three people in man-to-man and two people in zone. It was like a triangle two and box one kind of philosophy, right? And I thought I did it. I did it in high school, and I thought I invented it because no one else, I never seen it before. And this team had three really good players, so I couldn't do a triangle two and box one. I go to college, and I'm coaching with Tom Green, legendary coach at FDU, coach at Syracuse, coach at Tulane. He was in the Hall of Fame. I'm friends with him now. I was one of his assistants. We're still friends now, and he was running it. His defense, so I thought, and he's been doing it for years. So he probably, he was probably doing it before I was. And he found it from a high school coach. He went to a practice and he found it he saw a high school coach do it. So, but so I think success leaves clues. But you also want to create some things on your own, be innovative, be creative. But I like taking things and then say, how can I spin that and make it to our team? Because some things might not work. Some things might work for our team and not work for your team, and vice versa.
Well, absolutely. And I think the only time that's a problem is that when you find this great new drill somewhere and you realize it was one you put out there 20 years ago. It's like, hold it, that was mine. But I think the other point that you made there, that like kind of context, if I look at something you're doing and running, and I think this is a problem with watching drills on social media a lot of times. You might follow a coach that you highly respect, see this drill you think's awesome, you try to implement it as they were showing it. There's no context behind it, and it kind of goes kaplooey on you, and you don't understand why. So your point of kind of understanding it, molding it to your own environment and athletes, that's huge.
Yeah, I agree. Coach John, I have a couple cliff notes here. I printed out. I'll give it to you tomorrow, but I have some cliff notes that I created that Bob Seagate kind of came up with the idea. We were talking. I'm big on acronyms and sayings. Can I give the podcast listeners a few?
Yeah, certainly.
So 4 words: do more than expected. So a lot of people say that's not my job. That's not in my job description. I don't. When I leave tonight, I check the paper, copy machine. I make sure the paper in it. It's not technically in my job description, but I try to help out Sharon and our staff, and I use the copy machine. So I feel like it's good to replenish that, but do more than expected. I sweep the court. Do I have to do that? No, but John Wooden did it. He won a lot of championships, but I do it for safety of our athletes. The next one is success leaves clues, 3 words, which I told you. So that's 7 words altogether. So 4 words, do more than expected. So that means work hard, but then do a little extra. Study a little more. Study the extra. Some people do the bare minimum, right? So they just go to practice and they go home, right? You got to come early. You got to stay after. You got to shoot when you can. Now it's hard as a student athlete because you got to go to class, you got to go do homework, but can you get in there and do extra, right? No wasted days. I had a poster. It's on my. If you ever come to my office, coach, I can show you. I have no wasted days posted over here. right here. No wasted days.
Love that one.
It's on a posted. So what that was from Bill Self from Kansas. And what that means is don't waste a day. You know, if you need a day off or something, that's fine, but don't waste a day. You know, watching film, studying, relationships with players and student athletes, very important. All right.
Yeah, that one reminds me of the not dead can't quit.
That's funny. 1% better every day.
Love that.
Winners never quit. Quitters never win. Preparation equals the separation. So you and I go for a job interview, Coach knows, and we're right here, but now you're more prepared than I am. You have a portfolio, you have a personal cover letter, you have practice plans. Players, they're right here, and then someone separates themselves, now playing time, right? Because everybody's pretty good at this level, right? We have do a little lot or a lot of little. And what that means is instead of me cramming for a test, I study it each day for a little bit, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I do a little, a lot, or a lot, a little, right? You can put a lot in one day, work out for 4 hours instead of maybe working out every day for 30 minutes, right? Winners train, losers complain. Um, Loyalty travels. And I wrote that one up because I read it, but loyalty travels. A lot of people are not loyal these days in terms of like I'm from Queens, New York. I still stay in touch with people, right? Being loyal to where you came from. Every day is a tryout. Woo! I made the team, but then then 15 practice they get complacent, right? But
I was just talking about that today with some people.
there you go. And then every day's an interview. So, for example, like we won the championship a couple of years ago, first time in school history at Mount St. Vincent, but we won it at Roberts here during COVID, and that I could probably write a book about. But Dina Porterfield invited us over to her house, and I show up, and everybody's casual and things like that, and I was in a suit, shirt and tie, and I just thought it was the right thing to do. So every day is a job interview because you never know who's everybody is you never know who's watching, and everybody is talking. And
Nope. That one rings so true in this day of over posting in social media because now your interview is a lot wider.
I agree. Success is a choice. It's up to you. That's from Jamie Betchler. I don't know if you follow him. Bechler. He's really good. Jamie Betchler, John Gordon. That's kind of the group. TNT, today, not tomorrow. TBS, team before self. This is an interesting one. OADB. OADB. You know what that stands for, Coach?
OADB. Nope, give it to me.
On a daily basis. And what that
Ah,
is, I'm good on Monday, but then Tuesday I coast, and Wednesday I do well. And 1 year we had like you do well, John, on Monday, and then Tuesday I play well, and then Wednesday you play well, and then Thursday I play well. I didn't know who to start. I didn't know who to play. Right? There was no
right.
one. There was no consistency. So OADB on a daily basis, and the other one is be extreme. People want to be good. People want to be average. People want to be mediocre. I don't know if people want to be, but those are the categories. They're mediocre, average, good, great, but be extreme. Do things that other people are not going to want to do, right? And Kobe Bryant worked out twice, 3 times a day, but he probably at 4:30 in the morning, so he could have an advantage on everybody. I did that in prep school. I worked out at 5:30 in the morning. I was like, no one's doing this. Meanwhile, Kobe Bryant, is doing it. So, but I think do things that other people are not willing to do. I think that's going to take you to the next place.
Yeah, definitely. And actually that's a pretty good segue between your winning comments, like especially in the higher levels. Gino has a quote said the NBA is all about winning, but at the college level, winning doesn't make you happy. You can win and play lousy, and in my program, feel lousy. To me, it's about how good we can be. And I think a lot of those sayings, those forward things you just went over, kind of talk to that, how good can you be and what it takes. Um, to me, that quote kind of talks about how we define success. And you mentioned it when you were 025. Maybe people don't have your back, maybe, the kind of the frustration. Talk a little bit about, especially like coming into a program that's struggling, of working on the foundation and defining success to help build that as opposed to the scoreboard?
Yeah, I got a couple points. I think keep improving, right? Nick Saban says follow the process, trust the process instead of the outcome. That's easier said than done, right? You look at the scoreboard, there's bright lights, people looking at it. You got to use strategy for that, but I think keep improving. I think keep building. I came from a program that was struggling. On the boys' side, I've always was successful, made playoffs over 500, things like that, right? But when I went to the women's side, my first year was a struggle. But I hired good staff. I recruited, which is important. Fundamentals. I did study hall. We had a 1.6 GPA, John. The two best players didn't play the year I coached, and that's why we struggled right from the year before. We would have won some games if we had them, I think. And I was like Coach Carter. I was practicing 3 days a week, and I was doing study hall. Eventually, we went from 1.6 to 3.6 in 3 years
Ooh,
GPA.
good jump.
And then that really changed the program and that side, right? And then when I got to Roberts, they had a 3.17 GPA already, and they were doing study halls on their own. So it was two different programs, right? Gino Auriemma is 88% winning percentage, 1,205 wins to 161 losses. So he's unbelievable in terms of being successful. And when you talk about wins and losses, like in the NBA, like it's cutthroat. You got to win. You got to win. And people, if you're losing, the fans are probably saying fire you. And even players have a say now. A lot of players have a say. They claim.
Right.
But studying Gino Auriemma, and I actually didn't like him at the beginning. And I met him. We've had pictures with him. Coach Anthony met him last year. We were recruiting, and Coach Anthony chased him down, and we took some pictures with him. I don't think he was too happy about me coming over and taking a picture with him, but he was really talking to Coach Anthony, and I interrupted. But he always talks about playing to a standard, right? So say he wins by 10, but they didn't play the right way, he would be upset. A lot of coaches are happy that they won. So I think to have that mindset, I think is really, really good as a coach. To keep improving, but to have a set of standards for winning. Winning's important. When I first started coaching, Coach Knowles, I wanted to win. I cared about X's and O's. And now I still care about those things, but I'm telling you, relationships, impacting players, helping other coaches, doing everything around the department, bringing energy, positivity, bringing some snacks here and there. I just like to, not that people might think I'm always happy and positive. I have stuff that I go through, but I think having that mindset, we use a thing called AME, Coach Knowles, attitude, mindset, effort. Those are the three things you control. I used to talk about attitude and effort all the time. And then when I heard about mindset, I get to go to practice. I have to go to practice. I get to go to class. I have to go to class. I get to coach. I have to go coach today. I'm tired, right? It's tired. It's a long season. Like right now, I could coach another practice. I just had practice film. I worked out with a player. I'm ready to go. I'm not tired, right? But attitude, mindset, effort. If you can control those three things, I think good things will happen to you. You're not always going to win, but I think you'll win more. Did
No,
I
it's
answer?
it's really interesting, and I think it plays through in a lot of different things, but just that one get to versus have to, one little word to change that sentence can really have an impact on the way you view what you're currently involved in. And I think to your point and to Gino's quote about the, not being happy with that 10-point win, I think it was John Madden said winning's a good deodorant, where it can make you overlook some things that, maybe, oh, we won, it's okay. Well, is it? Because you're not playing up to that standard you were talking about. I certainly understand what he's talking about.
Yeah, I just read a thing about success. Success is about perception. Everybody has a different view on it, right? If we don't win a championship, at the beginning of the year, everybody has that goal, right? Everybody. Right? If you ask anybody, I want to win a championship, I want to lead the conference. Sometimes we do, you know, individual goals, personal goals, team goals, but we have, things that we can measure, right? We want to improve in this. We want to improve in rebounding. We want to be undefeated at home. Some of those goals, that was our prep school. We won in prep school championship as a player. And our goal was to win at home, undefeated. And if we lost, the next practice was the best practice of the year. And it was always, and we didn't lose a lot. We were 25-0, and we lost two, and then we had the best practices, and then we won the whole thing. So, but we had goals like that. It wasn't like win 20 games and win that. It was home court, protect home court, have a great practice after a loss, and keep improving. And that was, and then we won a championship because of it. Coach Knowles, the interesting thing, the year that the COVID year, we did not talk about championship. We just wanted to play. We were excited to play. There was not enough teams. We didn't know if we were going to have a season. We wanted to develop our younger players. We brought a great recruiting class in, and we ended up winning the championship. So it was crazy that we didn't really even talk about it. And then when we started, we were 3-6 and we won 9 straight games. Then we're like, hey, we could win this. But at first it was just trying to get the team to be a team.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that you can be grasping onto something too hard and not get it, like in the case of a championship. And I think the other thing is we all want to win one, definitely, but it's that when you're highly focused, when your grip's too tight on that external motivator, it's a really fleeting feeling of success too, because as soon as you won that championship, you were probably out at breakfast the next morning and someone's like, Coach, you're going to win this year too? It's like that expectation all of a sudden, and the pressure goes through the roof.
You want to enjoy the moment. It's interesting you said that, Coach John. Gino Ariema, they said as soon as he won a championship, on the plane back, he's like, "What can we get better at next year?" He was talking. I mean, that's how our brain, most of our brains operate as coaches, right? We're like, you want to enjoy it. You want to enjoy it. You win or lose a championship, you're still going to wake up the next day, right? But you also, like, if you win, now you're talking about repeating, right? The Chiefs are talking about winning three-peat and stuff like that. So there's a lot of pressure on them. I think for success, you want to have goals. You want to have a plan. You want to believe in yourself. I think if you surround yourself around good people, like a mentor and people like that, I think it's really important. And for me, I just like to outwork people. Like John, like when I lose, like, I'm heartbroken, I'm disappointed. But then the next day, I'm like, I want to run through a wall, and then I start recruiting, and then I start, and then I go watch games, and then just now I remember my why, right? Your why is really important. Like the days you want to quit, the days you want to give up. I want to read this to you, John. I follow sports psychology on Twitter. Physical strength is important, but remember it takes mental strength to gain it and to get the most out of it. In other words, the mind controls the body. If you strengthen your mind, your body will follow. So I'm going to read that again. Physical strength is important, but remember, it takes mental strength to gain it and to get the most out of it. In other words, the mind controls the body. If you strengthen your mind, your body will follow. John, I used to have to run a 6-minute mile in college, under 6 minutes, just to try out for the team. We had a JV program and a varsity program, similar to what Roberts did. But we had 40 guys trying out for Division II program, even a Division I program, and some of these guys could run a 4:45 mile, but they were not recruited. They were not the best basketball player. But he opened it up for everybody, and it backfired a little bit because some of the players that were really good couldn't do the mile. They had a 7-foot guy, so they changed it a little bit. But I had to run, and I'm telling you, when I ran the first time, I kind of quit. I never really quit anything in my life. I kind of quit, and I was doing really good, and I didn't really know how to run the mile. I just sprinted out. I was doing really good, but I was exhausted. So I went home, and my brother yelled at me, chased me home, and then after that, I kind of learned how to run the mile, and I was out at night running in the park, around the track, and running. And the whole summer I didn't go out. I wasn't partying. A lot of friends were going out, and I just ran and ran. I was really prepared. I was jumping rope. I was working out. But the biggest thing that got me through it was when I was tired. I would say, Kevin, you're not tired. Kevin, you got this. A lot of people, your mind goes first. Think about it. You can run, and then you're tired, but then you could go play a soccer game. You could go play a lacrosse game. You could really do that, right? You might be tired, but you really could do it. But running, your mind goes first, right? So it's like, I got it, I'm not tired. And that really helped me through the psychology part of it, where as a player, where when I wanted to quit, I would say, I got this.
Yeah, and I think that's huge at the higher levels. I mean, especially if you're talking, high D1 or a professional. The X's and O's, the tactical, the physical, it's almost identical across programs. I feel that what separates the better programs is the mindset of the individuals and the team collectively.
I agree. AME, attitude, mindset, effort. The get to versus the have to. And then John, I read this off the physical strength off that tweet. Someone tweeted underneath it. The 2 biggest mental challenges that athletes face, in my eyes, mental brain health and mental health is a big concern these days, more than ever. It went from 18% anxiety, depression to 42% after COVID. 10 years ago, it was really bad, and then it spiked even more, Dr. Phil said. But the two biggest mental challenges that athletes face is one, maintaining motivation. Think about it, it's long seasons. You have 2 seasons sometimes, right? Spring and the fall, and the traditional, non-traditional. Basketball, we go from September to May. Yes, we have some days off, but they're exhausted, right? So I try to do fun things like ice cream socials. We shortened practice today. We played a game yesterday. A lot of, you playing, and then we got practice and getting ready. So, travel, right? So number one, maintaining motivation, right? I try not to say I'm tired. Today 5 people said they were tired. I went to the store. The lady at the store said she was tired. Dunkin' Donuts, the person was tired. The person I talked to at the garage tired. The student I told her tired, and I'm like, no. If I say I'm tired, I want to go to bed. I'm not tired. I'll be tired tonight. So that's my mindset. The second one is performing under pressure. I think pressure is a privilege. Doc Rivers said it. We use a thing called Ubuntu. I am because we are. But pressure is a privilege is one of those things. So performing under pressure. And I feel bad for these players. They got a lot of pressure from their families, pressure from the coaches, pressure from themselves, pressure from the peers, pressure from the social media, right? Everybody, you're under a microscope now, you know. So I think those two biggest things are the challenges: motivation, being self-motivated. I like players that have a great motor, people that are in the gym on their own. Those are the players we like to recruit, right? And then performing under pressure.
Yeah, those you talked about it from a coaching perspective, knowing your why. I think the players need to be in touch with their why as well. If then, some of them I sometimes they need to reevaluate what they're doing.
I agree. Self-reflection is really important. Self-awareness. I don't think they do that a lot. I think they need to do that. I think they need to balance themselves, take some time off. Some overtrain, some undertrain. But again, I think the mind is like these. A lot of these players, think about it. They're scholarship players. They're recruited. They're really good. What separates? The confidence. The belief, the work ethic, the coachability, right? Um, the competitiveness. Are you a competitor? I think those things separate those players. And what do they do about it, right? Do they talk about it? Do they complain? Some people talk and then they don't back it up with action. Some people, you see them in the gym, you see them doing the extra, you know.
Well, it's you talk about that self-reflection, but then I know Dan Abrahams, if you're familiar with him, kind of works in the soccer golf side of things, but he talks a lot about shared mental models. So when it's good that you individually know what kind of makes you tick, but do you know what your teammates do you know what their trigger points are and what bothers them? And he talks a lot about teams getting together and sharing those so you have a better understanding when you're under pressure of, how to help each other.
I really like that. I probably haven't done that in my years of coaching, so I'm going to steal that from you.
It sounds great, but it's not easy to do like we talked about. Uh,
I try to find out when I call them connections, not really meetings. So like 1v2 connections. So coach knows you and I meet with a player, right, or an athlete, and we talk to them, and I ask them what's their pet peeve, what makes them tick, what motivates them, how you want to be coached. My biggest thing is being MVP. MVP is the most valuable teammate. Everybody wants to score the points and everybody wants to assist, and that's good. But I think, are you a great teammate? Are you leaving a legacy? People are going to remember you about that. I have a lot of regrets when I was a student athlete. I wish I did this more. I wish I did that more. But I thought I was a great teammate. I stayed in touch with people. I still stay in touch with my coaches. I was always that. I was not always the best player, the best athlete, but I think being a team player is really important as a job, as a coach. For example, I could just care about women's basketball, but I want lacrosse, soccer, men's basketball, volleyball. I want people to do it. I want soccer. I want swimming, bowling. Triathlon, track, cross country. I want all those sports to do well. Esports now. yeah.
right. So since we're living between the ears, and I know we found some common ground when I gave my talk during that suicide prevention week thing, and so kind of on the importance of how we're relating to our athletes. And Tara Vanderveer, her quote says, "I want to be a coach that our players want as a coach." And when I read that, I thought of our connection after my talk there. And when you hear that quote, you want to be a coach that our players want as a coach. What comes to mind for you?
Oh, I thought your talk, and I've seen you before, but I never really heard you speak, and it was impactful. I thought it was really really good, and then we kind of connected because of that, because I had some athletes that went through that stuff. But that quote from Tara, I have a lot of respect for her. I have a buddy that's a coach's hang time. He runs like a coach's hang time. He had Gino on there. He does like he tries to grow the game, and him and I are buddies, and we talk every day. He's assistant coach at San Marcos, and um, is friends with Tara Vanderbilt's sister. So they have a lot of good ideas. So I share ideas. So I don't know them, but I know people that know them, and we always go back and forth. But I think that quote is really impactful. It's powerful. It's really powerful. I think you want to be the coach that you want to be the teammate that you want people to be, treat you right. So same thing as a coach, and it's tough. You want to be hard on these players. You want to be demanding, but you can't be demeaning. We try to have a saying: "Tell it, but tell it, don't yell it." You know, um, it's hard sometimes, but sometimes I raise my voice. But I think that quote from Tara is really really powerful.
I think for me, when I was thinking about that a little more as well, I started thinking, and we kind of touched on it earlier about like not feeling like as a coach you know everything. Like for me, I'm not the keeper of all goalie knowledge. So are we as coaches, I guess, courageous enough to be vulnerable and kind of admit that and maybe, hey, what did you see? What do you think about that situation? And I think some of that starts to get in, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to feel part of something and have some input to it. That's kind of where I went on that. How do you feel about, like, you talked about relationships before? How's that? How much do you believe in getting the input back from what's going on the floor?
Yeah, I think every coach has different styles, and they're all, they probably could work, right? The culture's changed a little bit, but I'm big on, like, some coaches are this the way we're doing it, and they don't listen to anybody, right? This is the way they did it for years. I think you got to be able to adjust. You got to adapt, and I think for us, we're collaborative. We just had a film session, and I said, if you were the head coach, what are one or two things you want to practice today? And they said work on post passing, and they said work on boxing out and rebounding. So I think all that stuff, being collaborative, we're big on that. So when I talk in relationships, I asked this question at the end of the year. I said, if you were the head coach, what is one thing you would do differently? And it's
Love it.
impactful to ask 15 people that, because now that they're thinking as a head coach, and they're going to tell you what to do and everything to do, but they're not thinking like a head coach, right? They're not. When you ask them that, you could stump them a little bit. But when I asked them that, if you were the head coach, what would you change? What would you do? What would one new standard you would add, or one, is there something you would take away, or remove? When I take over programs, I've asked that. When I got the job upstate, I said, anything you want to keep, and they said change everything. I said, really? We kept one warm-up drill. It was called Maris, like a rebound drill. We kept that, but everything else. When I got here, they like the word of the game, and we've kept that tradition going. Bob Seagate had it going, Coach Rosati, and we kept the word of the game. So we do one word a game, Coach Noel. So like each player, they come up with a list of captains, and then the coaches are involved. So yesterday, Coach Esposito had, it's word of the game. It could be one word. He had two words: holy moments, and he talked about it. And it was, talked about his sister died on this day yesterday, so it was like an anniversary, or so he, remembrance. So it was very powerful in my eyes. Last week, another player, they used the word sacrifice. Right? You could talk about any word, but they got to get up there in front and talk about it, and we've kept that since we've been here. Right? So I think having that input, that collaborative, I'll ask them things, and sometimes I might disagree with them, right? But I'll ask them and get their input. And then sometimes I'm like, wow, that's a great idea. When we watch film, it's hard to get all the input sometimes. So I have them write down suggestions on the bottom. And you know what? I read them, and they actually have a lot of good messages. And I tell them I read them. I don't know if they believe me or not, but I use that to help me with practice. It helps me with practice planning, Coach Knowles. So and how you want to defend the screen. even on the court, you know what I started doing the last couple of years, Coach knows, when they come out of the game, hey, John, what do you see? What's happening out there? And they really, you know, that girl's grabbing me, 14's elbowing me. You know, they're really hurting us on the cut, you know. So you know, it's hard to ask every single person that, but, you know, I've asked our assistants and things like that. So I think for us, it's all collaborative. There's some coaches that have people just stand there and they're cheerleaders, and I've done that before as a coach where I'm just there. And then once they trust you and once they know you're knowledgeable, you know, like I have coaches today, we did stations and we broke it up, and you know, everybody's involved and collaborative. You know, I'm big on that.
Yeah, and back to the trust in that relationship, and I feel that's very important, and I know you value that as well. Um, yes, yeah, I want to respect your time, so actually, I'm going to do one more question. We might have to do a. I didn't get to all of them, so we might have to do this again, Coach.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I'm good. So whatever,
oh,
however
you're
you want.
good. Okay, well, maybe we can sneak a couple more in here. Let's see. Let's start with. I'm going to go to Pat Summit. You mentioned her earlier on. Um, Pat Summit says. Group discipline produces a unified effort towards a common goal. Um, Talk about the importance in your mind of having that shared vision, that shared destination or Northern Star, and aligning all the individual disciplines and egos and wants into that team direction.
I got up there for a second, John. I don't know if you can see me. This poster, we have identity and then standards and values, and the players signed it. So we have our own kind of vision, kind of like Pat Summit, and the players created that. I used to say, hey, these are going to be our pillars. Hey, these are our standards. Now I have them collaborative and involved. And if there's something on there that they don't, like I added joy, love what you're doing, right? So they put joy, and I said, love what you're doing. That's the last one. And then this one is teamwork. It's a little sign. Teamwork, the combined action of a group, especially when effective and efficient. So
Love it.
kind of like you said, the group shared vision with Pat Summit. I looked up, I thought of the teamwork thing. So I have all these signs and all these other things. So, but I love Pat Summit. She was tough. You know, they said when she gave the stare, you know, they were fearful of her. But you know, talks about she treated people well. People loved her. You know, she really cared about her players' relationships. I think relationships. Anybody listening to this podcast, I think you got to take away relationships. Think about it. If I have a relationship with you, Coach Knows, I could say, you know, if I get on you hard and coach you hard, you could understand where it's coming from. Okay. They say rules without relationships equals rebellion. So if you have a child and your child's not listening to you, they're going to rebel because you don't have that relationship. If they know you love them, care about them, trust, you know, they trust you, and you have them first before you, we over me, I think they'll buy into that, right? So
Yeah,
that's that's
there's
not
that there's that quote that they don't care about how much you know until they know you care, or it's something like that. So same thing, same line there. You talked about in your experience, and you've probably done it both ways or experienced it both ways, because I think all of us as coaches has. How much better was the cohesion in that vision, in that direction, in that buy-in, in that team culture, the values when it was bottom up as opposed from top down?
Yeah, I think, you know, again, people have worked both ways, and I think they've been effective both ways. I think more now, I think when you have people have part of, you know, you say you make a handbook, and the coaches have some say in it, and the student athletes have some say in it. I think, you know, you have more buy-in into it. So I like to bottom up and include everybody. You know, I had an assistant coach a couple of years ago. He was really good, but he wouldn't really talk to like the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th player. And I'm like, you got to treat them, you know, you got to treat them well too. You know, you got to talk to them and work with them, and don't just shoot with the best players. You know, so I really, even though the player might not play a lot and they might think I don't like them, you know, I try to help those people. I check in on them. Our team manager, I text her and say, appreciate you. You need anything? So I think, you know, you're as strong as your weakest link, but I think you gotta treat people fairly, you know, and with respect, not based on their, you know, who they are as a player, right? Person over player, we call it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you reminded me of a quote, and I paraphrase it, but as coaches, don't let the last person on the bench wilt away. It's,
I like that.
it's to your point of making sure you are engaged with all of them. All right, let's go to Don Staley.
I
Here's
met
a good
Dawn.
one. If you fail a test in life, you'll face it time and time again until you pass it. The stakes keep getting higher if you don't learn how to pass. To me, that talks about really focusing in on the basics. And she says if you don't learn how to pass, you're not going to go anywhere as the stakes keep getting higher. Um, how, it's so easy to think, oh man, we've done this passing drill 5 days in a row or whatever, right? It's boring. It doesn't seem glamorous. It's not fun. Talk about mastering the fundamentals in order to succeed.
Yeah, I use the word F and F, fundamentals and fun. We do a two-partner passing, bounce pass, chest pass, step to the ball. They probably don't like it, boring. Kobe Bryant said that they asked him why he's the, best basketball player in the world, and he said he likes the boring fundamentals. I think Dawn Staley's right. What came to my mind from that is you got to learn from your mistakes, right? You fail a test, you fail a test again, maybe change up your study habits. John, a lot of people don't know this. I passed my one teaching test a long time ago. It was a classroom management test, but I had to take another test, and it had me questions about music. They asked me a question about like art. I mean, they had a question about a guy with a sword like this, and they said A, B, C, D, and they put like warrior. So I chose warrior, and I got it wrong. I'm like, this guy looks like a warrior, I studied and studied, but I failed it like 6 times. I failed by 20 points. I failed it by 1 point, which is the worst. I'm like, this is rigged. I'm like, this is a moneymaker. And I learned how to beat it. This guy gave me some strategies on how to beat the test. Those study tests, those standardized tests that are really hard. And then I actually got the art teacher at my school. I was teaching at the time, but I still needed it for my certification. I met with her, and she went over art with me because I had to pass the art section. Even though I was not teaching art, I had to pass art, I had to pass music, I had to pass, and I studied, I self-studied, I had people help me, and I ended up passing by 20 points. Yeah. So from Dawn Staley's thing about, you have to fail before you succeed, and what you do from it, how you learn, or if you keep doing the same thing, it's called insanity, right? So I learned how to beat the test. It's like being an opponent, right? How do you beat Damon? Right? You want to beat Damon, but how do you beat them, right? So I think that's knowing the scout, knowing this, but knowing their weaknesses, but learning from those mistakes. But I like Dawn. I met Dawn a lot, so I met Dawn and I like her a lot.
Yeah, I tell my goalies constantly, solve the puzzle, solve the puzzle. If you want to view it as a science experiment, put on your lab jacket and get to work. Keep trying things. So yeah, I think just constantly experimenting and exploring and trying different angles and learning from those defeats. Good stuff.
I agree.
Last one, my friend. Phil Jackson.
I feel.
Good teams become great ones when the members trust each other enough to surrender the me for the we. And there's that word trust again. And trust, and it's grounded in with good teams becoming great teams. How how do you react to that quote by Phil? And more importantly, how do you try to implement that during your practices so it's evident during games?
Easier said than done. You really got to foster that teamwork and that togetherness. It's hard when everybody's not playing equal minutes and things like that, and there's comparison and things like that. So, but I think you just keep talking about it. You lead by example. Like me, I'll practice anytime we need to practice as long as everybody can be there. I love to practice at 10 to 12 and be home for lunch, but I don't do it for me. I do it for the we, right? So we over me, we is greater than me, we, not me, TBS, team before self. So, John, we created all those different things off it, but the players got to create the standards, the values, and then you got to hold them accountable to it, which is really, really hard. They got to hold themselves accountable, hold their teammates accountable, but it's really hard. So they got to buy into that we over me, but when they see the results, I think they start buying into it. But it takes time, and they got to trust the process. But I really like the we over me. A lot of people, how many points you scored, right, when I was a kid? How many points? Did you win? Yeah, and that's all I cared about when I was a kid. I used to keep track of my points and stuff. But then when I got older later on, when I started coaching, to me it all came all about who. I don't care who scored. As long as we scored, right, and we want to win. So, but also you got to learn from losing too. But we over me is really important. Phil Jackson has a good book, Disease of Me. Pat Riley, sorry, Pat Riley, but Disease of Me. But that we over me and buying into the team and all that stuff. And Phil Jackson, they said he did a lot of like mindset, visualization, Zen, right? He did a lot of Zen stuff. Like he would have them take their sneakers off and stretch and in their socks and feet barefoot and really do different things and meditate. A lot of people weren't doing that. Joe Torre, another one, right? Managing those egos, right? All those superstars, right? All these super teams now. You can put all the best teams together. That doesn't mean they're going to be a team. They tried to do that years ago, right? With the Lakers, they tried to get all these teams, and they were like ninth place. It takes time. You got to build that culture. I think culture. I think that the environment, the climate. Do they want to come to work? Do they believe in each other? You got to do some team bonding stuff. So there's a lot of different things you could do, John, but it comes down to the players buying into it. And then recruiting, right? If you can recruit, you want to recruit we over me people, right? You don't want to recruit me guys. In basketball, Coach Knowles, we talk about our shot versus my shot. So, for example, I come down, I shoot, I got my shot up, then you come down and you get your shot up, and then the next person does it. And then, like yesterday, we played team basketball, right? Sharing the ball, team defense, and we won because of that. So, so I think we over me. I like Phil Jackson for doing, for saying that.
I think, in my opinion, Phil Jackson's greatest accomplishment was being able to bring Dennis Rodman into the fold and have him operate within the team environment and not have it fall apart. Talk about having a difficult personality who they needed to be himself in a team environment. So kind of integrating that we over me with that to me, that was his greatest achievement.
Yeah, I agree. I think my best advice to anybody listening: be yourself, right? Be Coach Cliff, be Coach Noel, be who you are. But now, team first attitude, right? TFA, team first attitude. TBS, team before self. If you have those things, like for example, Phil Jackson knew how to manage Rodman during the playoffs and championship. Coach knows. I believe he was in Vegas. He showed up on Nitro and NWO. And then the next day he was playing a championship game. People were like, "What's going on here?" But he was able to manage. He knew he needed let him go do his thing. Players were okay with it. I don't know if you could do that all the time, but I think Phil was able to manage that, like you said, and he was a great player and he helped them out. That's what they needed. They needed a Horace Grant type rebounder with Jordan and Pippen and those guys. So I think Joe Torre, Phil Jackson, yeah, they have great players, right? Gino or Emma. But now you got to manage those egos. You got to manage them playing, team sport. Gino says this a lot, Coach knows, in basketball, especially 90% of the ball. Billy Donovan says this too. And Billy Donovan actually coached me at 5-star, but Billy Donovan is the Chicago Bulls coach. 90% of the game is without the ball. So, like Brianna Stewart, he was teaching them. They all had the ball in high school. In college, he was teaching Brianna Stewart, Diana Taurasi. He had all these superstars, Maya Moore. How to play, Rebecca Lobo, how to play without the ball, right? And that's important because that's the team game, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I say that a lot. The most important people on the field, on the court, on the rink, wherever you are the ones without the biscuit. And be ready for it. It's coming.
I agree.
Coach, I appreciate your time this evening. This was great. I'm glad you could come on board and have a chat.
Thanks for having me on. It was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to do it again, and I will definitely see you around the VAC.
Always. We got to do that little meeting in the circle again.
Yeah, the coaches therapy couches. I love that. Coach, thank you very much. Have a great night. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks everybody for listening. And Coach Knowles is number one.
Take care.